Well, it's very nice to meet you as well. And just from a pronunciation perspective, Sitbeck?
That's great. Yeah, you can also call me Said for short.
Said?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Where are you from?
I was born in, at the time it was Soviet Union. Now it's Kyrgyz Republic or Kyrgyzstan. It's in Central Asia, next to Kazakhstan.
Okay. Very cool. How long have you been in the States?
I came for the first time in 2004, but I moved here 2011.
Okay. No, very good. Well, I'm glad you're here. So
Me too.
Appreciate the time today. What I'd like to do is just spend a couple of minutes talking through who we are, types of things we're doing, and what we're looking for. Kind of level set, make sure that we have a good understanding there. I'd then like to kind of evaluate and talk to you about how you might see yourself fitting into that role. Ask some questions from a technical perspective, and then lastly, open it up for you to ask us questions and get to know us a little better. Does that sound like a good plan?
Sounds a very good plan.
Okay, great. First off, I love the board in the background. I'm a visual myself, so it's like I'm always.
I'm ready to show you anything if need be.
That's a great board. I love it. Yes. So we as an organization really have sprint teams that kind of go from the technical architect all the way through to developers and configurators on the team. Sprints are managed by our scrum masters and project managers, and then of course we have the actual development and code, as well as a configuration and a flow business process design. Business analyst, and then we also have release, and we have quality assurance. Kind of makes up a team. So a team typically is somewhere between 6 on the small size, 8 to 10 on the larger side.
First of all, thank you for the overview. Very concise and gave me a good picture. I don't
want those teas. I don't want to do the teas anymore. I got it.
Yeah,
so let's spend a couple minutes talking about you and how did you get into the Salesforce ecosystem? Tell me a little bit about your background and how you got here. What's your journey?
My background is in business. My undergrad I did in accounting finance. My master's I did an MBA at University of Virginia, Darden School of Business, and never had really coding background, IT background. And after finishing my MBA, I was working for CareFirst Blue Cross Blue Shield in Maryland. Yeah. And I was doing these rotations across different divisions, and in one of my rotations I was with the sales team, and I was supposed to help them increase productivity, and I started looking at what do they do and see that they use this thing called Salesforce. I'm like, oh, interesting, what is this stuff? It looks kind of old, this, but let's see, what can we do here? And I started just doing research and reading up the material, watching YouTube videos, and with a bit of knowledge I had, I was able to help the sales team appreciate the product more, improve the page layouts, explain them what some of the things do, and I really liked the feedback I was getting, the impact I was having on the sales team, and I was like, wow, man, this is interesting, this is pretty empowering. And so I talked to some people, and they're like, yeah, maybe you can become a Salesforce professional. And I'm like, should I change my career 180 degrees? I'm like, okay, and without giving too much thought, I went into it, and this has been one of the best decisions in my life. And it's been almost 5 years now. And I spent 2 years at CareFirst Blue Cross Blue Shield, 1.5 years at Accenture, and 1.5 years at Accounting Seed now. And I have 10 Salesforce certifications. I really enjoy Salesforce. In my free time, I make YouTube videos about Salesforce certifications, how to get jobs, how to do certain interesting things that I learned, and just share interesting things. Yeah, and over time I have a whole bunch of subscribers now, almost 1,800 subscribers.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I get another one.
Yeah, please follow me. And then also in my free time I teach Salesforce at Montgomery College in Rockville. So I really enjoy teaching because it makes me think harder about Salesforce. Otherwise, some things I do and just do it without really knowing why do we do this. I know it works, but I'm not sure why we do it. And then but when I teach, I have to really understand it like 100%, and so that's why I love to share my knowledge with my colleagues.
Cool. Talk to me a little bit about how you went from a business finance major into tech and doing development.
It was
Tech is an object-oriented product, so you've got to know coding to do it well.
yeah, it was a very rocky road. I was like, if I knew how difficult it would be, I wouldn't have started the journey, but I was just trying to figure things out, reading about Java, reading David Liu stuff, and trying to get my hands on anything I could get, and it was not an easy journey at all. It was a lot of hours on weekdays, evenings, on weekends, just grinding things, and just in the past 2 years, a lot of things started clicking for me. Yeah, a lot of things I was doing just mechanically, and I know that's why you put like methods. When you call methods this static versus non-static methods, and variables, constants, and a whole bunch of things I was just doing, but without really knowing, and so it was not easy at all. And I think the resources available I was using were not helpful for me. I'm doing like a lot of self-analysis. For example, the Apex Basics trailheads, yeah, it's not basic at all. Like I don't know if and I was reading, so it wasn't really motivating me. And then David Liu says you gotta go read the Java Head first book, and then in Java they have these things that are different than in like array lists, hash maps, and that was confusing me too. Like, what are those things? How can I relate that to Apex? And so I did a lot of mistakes, lost a lot of time, but I think I figured it out. Apex right now I feel I'm very comfortable in, especially after I started teaching. Really things start making very, very good sense, and overall I enjoy Apex. Right now for me the biggest challenge is JavaScript.
Okay.
I had some experience with JavaScript.
Okay, and there's certainly things we can do to help you. You know, if you come on board with us, we've got different places that you can get help and learn the process. We spend a lot of time on our teammates,
really
helping get the training they need. More importantly, get that enterprise aspect. So we tend to invest in a lot of younger resources and a lot of resources kind of coming into the market. They tend to work out for us in the long haul a lot better than some of the the more tried and true folks.
Really?
They tend to hit and go and make the big bucks. But in terms of kind of the approach, I tend to agree with you. Unless you've got good mentoring and good resources, it's easy to pick up bad habits, or it's easy to not know exactly what they're explaining when they're trying to do it. They go too quick sometimes. Mm-hmm. But the cool thing about Salesforce is it kind of grew up from a non-traditional, non-IT shop build. So it was never really started as enterprise and then made its way into the enterprise and had to adapt quickly.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I know when I did my first custom development, it was they didn't even have the force.com structure. It was like this was behind the scenes, and you could get it if you wanted it, but they didn't. There was no tools. There was no app exchange. There was no trailheads. None of that was there. You just had to beg, borrow, and steal as much as you could, and take languages and try it and test it. That was early, and that was before they even got. They were still in hotels for Dreamforce. So it's just like okay. So let's spend a couple minutes talking a little bit about kind of as you went from Keros first to Accenture and now as accountancy. Kind of walk me through kind of the types of your daily task. What are you doing today? How's that built from what you've learned in the past?
What I do today? Right now, I spend about 80% of my time fixing bugs or making improvements to our package. We have a managed package. It has about 1,000 users, and I take tickets from Jira and just work on them. The other 20% of the time I work on tier 3 issues. So these are issues that our customers have. They are having some kind of integration difficulty, or they're doing something and some kind of a bug is coming out, and I go and look at it and see if, like, this Apex CPU limit, is it some inefficiency on our code, or is it some additional trigger, it's getting kicked off from our trigger, and so these are the key three things I work on: improvements, bugs, and customer support.
Okay, well, that makes sense. What are some of the most challenging JIRA tickets that you've worked on this year?
Most challenging. Okay, I'm having a short-term memory right now. I'm not able to query all the tickets, but I can tell you one of the challenging tickets I'm working on right now is okay, over the past maybe 2 weeks, is we have in our product we have a record, like a payable. You got to pay someone money, and this payable you can pay out to a company, like an account, or you can pay it out to a contact or to a user. And one of the use cases I'm doing is, what if the contact is a person account, and then but the person account is not available unless it's people enable it, and when if you populate the contact, if you pull a person account into the contact field, we need to pull in some values from the person account, and I'm struggling with how to pull it from the person account, because what if it's just a regular contact versus a person account? The relationships are different, and
you've got a very different structure with the person account, because it's both a contact and an account.
Yes.
And it's also an individual. So there's a third object they throw into the mix.
Yeah, and I'm
struggling. In this package, I could see how much of a nightmare that would be.
Yes, and I'm struggling
with. You don't know what they're going to have.
Exactly, and I'm struggling with the unit test for that too. When does the unit test run? Like, so, some technical difficulties there, and also some difficulties on the fact that when I create the scratch orgs, sometimes I forget to enable person account in the scratch org, and then I have to start all over again, create scratch org and push it, and then create the trial data, and spends another 10-20 minutes just prepping. And
how are you doing your code work now? Are you doing it with a product like Capado, or something that manages your code? Or are you doing it old school with GitHub and stuff like that?
GitHub, old school. GitHub, okay. Yeah. I use IntelliJ, and I push to GitHub, and then make a pull request once I'm done.
Okay.
Are you doing it all out of Visual Studio, or are you doing it out of Eclipse?
IntelliJ, Illuminated Cloud extension. I know Visual Studio Code is the Salesforce's preferred partner, and all the Trailhead is using Visual Studio Code, but I really like IntelliJ, how it does auto completion, auto suggestion, and you can. I think the user interface is better.
Okay, and they're pretty much all open source, so that makes sense. So it's like you can use whatever you want. So, okay. I see here that you've done lightning flows, field service lightning as part of your work at Accenture.
Yes.
You also mentioned that some of your nemesis is the JavaScript. So talk to me a little bit about how you go about approaching a Lightning Web Component or a Lightning component from a design perspective.
Yeah.
Have you done many of them? Or
when I did the Lightning components, I would take it from the Lightning Design LDS. Yep. So get the shell from there, and then at that time Lightning component had just come out. It was like 2.5 years ago, and and I'm forgetting what we were doing with them. The picture was, we were like trialing new technology that Salesforce was releasing, so that we can figure it out, and then tell the other Accenture teams so that they can go out and sell it to the market. So we were experimenting these things and doing short demos. And I'm forgetting the demo, what we did with the lightning design system. I know we just wanted to showcase the technology, but somehow I was because we're not doing very complex, like full-scale project. It was just like 2-week sprints and just trying to demo something, and I think maybe we did something quite rudimentary. And most of my time I spent there, like really mastering is live message and Einstein bots, and so those ones I'm very comfortable with.
Okay.
Let me change gears a little bit. So you've worked at a individual kind of a customer, so that's care first.
Yeah.
You worked for an SI, and now you're working for an app dev or an SI or ISV. What did you like about each of those three? What did you dislike about each of those three?
Yeah, very good question, actually. Very good topic to tackle on a YouTube video, I realized. Never thought about it. Because those are yeah. So what I liked about Care First was that I'm grateful to them always that they gave me a chance to be exposed to Salesforce. If I did not get this exposure, I would have been in a non-tech field and probably been pretty stressful, working long hours and like not enjoying my life so much. But I got this chance. But one of the big drawbacks of Care First, I feel, is that Care First, it's a private company, but they have a monopoly on the health insurance market. So they behave like a government. So it's very slow to move, and just, I remember when we had Scrum meetings, I had very little knowledge, but given my still little knowledge, I could tell how much some things would take. And I remember when the Scrum Master would say, hey, we need to fix this workflow rule. The experienced developers would say, hey, I need like 5 hours for that. I'm like, so strange, like little things, like everything would move so slowly, and I would get frustrated with that. And that's what I like about Accenture. Although it's a big company, things move really fast there. And I was pretty amazed how fast things move there. And I like that a lot because that accelerated my learning curve. And I would see a lot of things. I worked in different teams. So I felt like that was a boot camp. And they paid for me to attend the boot camp, so that made it more fun.
But the challenge here is that we're a small company, 47 people. When I started, I was the only developer onshore. We had 2 or 3 offshore developers at that time. Now we have a bit more onshore developers. There are 3 of us, but still, I think it's very limiting. Like the onshore developers they brought on, one is in Florida, one is in Ohio, so I don't even see them. So, but I feel like and the CTO, I can go talk to him, but he's so busy doing all this like DevOps stuff and thinking big things, and so I don't really go to him, like to go in for a chat. So I think working for a larger corporation, there is more opportunity to like brainstorm, to tap resources and get trainings. For example, here I haven't had any training. All the training I do is by myself, which is in a way good because that's the way life should be, right? No one's gonna send you to training. You gotta figure things out yourself, like through the resources online. But I think it would be nice if there were some trainings, so that like I can learn certain things, like maybe Lightning Web Components. But
Thank you, sir.